Hi there, my name's Sal and welcome to my little review of Atomfall. If this is your first time here and you're new to the channel, you're new to me, hi, my name's Sal. I am English, but more importantly and more relevant to this review, I am a Cumbrian. That means I've been born and bred, lived most of my life in Cumbria, which is where this game is set. I myself even went to the nuclear power plant as part of work experience, and a lot of my friends and family still to this day work at the nuclear facility in Cumbria. So I thought I was going to have a little bit of bias towards really liking this game when I went into it, but that might not be the case. Also, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this video, please note that there probably will be some spoilers to the game. So if you're planning on playing this yourself, maybe give this one a little bit of a miss. Or at least, you know, watch at your own risk. Because personally, I always think it's best to go into these types of games knowing absolutely nothing and just being immersed in the world that you're given. That way you can make up your own mind on whether you like it or not without being influenced by myself or others. And lastly, of course, these are just my own personal thoughts and feelings after playing the whole game and on my experience of the game, which may vary widely from person to person. So I played the game in its entirety, which I always do. If there are side quests in a game like this, you can guarantee that I'm going to be scouring the map to find them. I often find that these are more interesting than some of the main quests sometimes. I also finished it with all 6 endings by the magic of save scumming. If you've already played the game and you're interested in seeing all the other endings, you can see that video somewhere here, maybe a link over there, I don't know. It'll be on the screen or in the description down below. I really enjoyed the game as a whole. The visuals in Atomfall are honestly pretty solid and they really nailed the scenery of Cumbria in the summertime. You know, with the fells in the background and the buildings in Wyndham especially. They were kind of reminiscent of something that you would find in Windermere or Keswick. The only thing I would say that they got wrong is that it didn't rain once. If you know England, and especially if you know Cumbria, it's not known for its dry weather. Hence, it's named the Lake District. Following on from the lack of weather, there was also no day or night cycle in the game, which leads me to believe that you're meant to do all this in a single afternoon, which for the amount of missions that you have to complete, it seems a bit far-fetched. I would have enjoyed seeing them implement a nighttime so we could see the blue power plant glow, or maybe even a scattering of the bioluminescent fungus in the woods. I think they really missed an opportunity with that one. I know a lot of people have tried to compare this game to the likes of Fallout, but I said while I was playing through the game, I don't think it can be compared to it. For me, when I compare them purely from an aesthetic point of view, Fallout feels much more cartoony in comparison, and it feels like it's built on a more make-believe bias than Atomfall's is. Especially since Atomfall is actually based on a real place, and a real disaster event that took place in the Windscale plant in 1957, kind of. Plus, the mechanics for most things in Atomfall are very different. The big one being that there isn't a quest log. There's just your own investigations into leads. So you have to talk to people, explore areas, find notes, and use your own discretion to act on discovering more information to follow the lead, or you can ignore it and go wherever you want, pretty much. Unlike Fallout, this game is a lot shorter. You can complete it if you mainline one of the endings in about 10 to 15 hours, which I didn't do, and if you're buying a game like this, I don't know why you would do, but there are always some people that will link this game's value to its main quest length. It's also not an open world game like Fallout. The Fallout maps are notoriously huge, whereas Atomfall, instead of using one large map, it has a few main areas that connect together. You've got Slattendale, Casterfell Forest, Skethermore, the Interchange, and the village of Wyndham. You can access all these areas by main gates, or you can go through the Interchange, or the sewers, or the mines. I honestly found it a little tedious, because there's actually no kind of fast travel in the game, so I think walking from place to place took up most of my time. I would say Atomfall manages to keep its individuality, completely separate from any other Fallout games, especially when you learn the truth of the actual disaster in Atomfall. Then it kind of doesn't really mix together with nuclear and nuclear. So going into the game itself, technically speaking, when I played the game I didn't come across many bugs along the way, but there were a few. Some graphical ones that I had with things not loading in, like this robot's arm, or that robot's arm. In fact, a few robots' arms just didn't load in for me. Sometimes when I killed an NPC, I would have spiking of the textures for whatever reason, but nothing that was particularly game-breaking for me. There was also an audio bug that I encountered twice while playing, which has been noted by a few other people on Twitter and Steam reviews, where the audio just completely cuts out, and the only way to restore it is by rebooting the game completely. I did find an annoying thing where, for some reason, the NPCs seemed to take up a whole road, even though I could physically fit past. The game wouldn't let me fit past, so if I was on a gangway with a soldier in the middle, I couldn't actually get past. It seemed a bit silly. But I'd say after playing it for about 35 hours in total, I didn't experience too many bad things. I didn't have any crashes, no game-breaking bugs or hard locks to be seen. But as good as the game ran for me, I still felt like it was a bit last generation, especially with the AI and the NPCs. With the NPCs in combat, you do have the option to be stealthy or aggressive, but I wouldn't say the combat is the main focus of the game. They give you very little ammo, it feels a little cumbersome sometimes when you try and use the melee weapons. I honestly can't tell you how many times I tried to block an incoming attack with a melee weapon and just tried to throw it at somebody. It was so frustrating. The AI of the enemies feels pretty basic at times. I was initially impressed by the way that they backed off when you pointed a gun at the ones holding a melee weapon, but a sparkle kind of left pretty fast when I murdered a whole group of them, one by one, by simply standing at the top of the ladders and bonking them on the head. I also found that squeezing through an opening is a pretty good way to escape them. You can cheese them through the actual slit. They won't come in, they'll come close and maybe try and attack you if you get too close, but you can just shoot them. It's easy. It's not game breaking, but it is a little bit immersion breaking, I would say. The game allows you to choose a main difficulty, but it can be highly customized to your playstyle. Not only does it have different settings, but on top of that you can further customize your playthrough with individual settings within the categories of combat, survival, and exploration. For me, I played the first 10 hours on Survivor setting, but after that I changed it down to Brawler. The only thing that I noticed that was different was the amount of enemies that I had on my screen at any one time. After finding the other settings, I also changed my playthrough to have waypoints because although the game by default wants you to use the lore system and explore the maps and every nook and cranny, I wanted a little reminder of where I needed to be headed towards because as somebody with ADHD, I get distracted super easy. Because you're in the quarantine zone, money is pretty pointless to these people. Instead, you have a barter system. You can speak to any NPC traders and strike a deal. Since your inventory is limited, it does make sense to keep trading and getting items you need, but after a while of doing this, I found it a little redundant. I could get everything I needed by looting and crafting. Even the recipes, I looted everything to try and trade for some recipes from the traders, and then I found it out in the wild, so it seemed a little redundant to do. Speaking of the inventory, it's pretty rough, especially if you're like me and you're a loot goblin. You aren't able to stack items and you have to treat it like a real backpack and how much stuff you could realistically fit into one or tie to the sides of one. You can, however, appease your inner loot goblin by using the pneumatic tubes found in the bunkers and interchange and store up to an extra 100 items off your persons. Also, if the tube gets full and your backpack's full, you can use the floor. Like I did. It's a very normal, very organized way to put your stuff. Speaking of crafting and items, because I played on an easier difficulty, I didn't really have much of a problem with finding crafting items. My problem was my bag was always full of them and I couldn't craft enough. Plus there's only one skill that you can unlock to help with this, but it only helps hold a little bit more of items than my loot goblin heart would like to, and it was a bit sad. I could never hold enough items to craft an ungodly amount of Molotovs, for reasons. I did like the mechanic where the guns that you acquired throughout the game could also be crafted. In fact, you actually need to craft them in order to upgrade them to the pristine stars. The only ones that you can find around the world are the rusty ones and the stock weapons, and you gotta combine two of them to get a better one. So 2 rusty equals 1 stock, and 2 stock would equal 1 pristine. In order to do this, however, you do need to unlock gunsmith skill that's in the ranged combat section of the skills page. On the skills page itself, you have 4 main categories. You have ranged combat, melee combat, survival, and conditioning. A lot of it is kind of irrelevant to what I was doing in my playthrough, but I kind of went for ranged and survival with a little bit of conditioning. The melee combat I had absolutely zero interest in, and I'm also not sure if you can fully upgrade every single thing in here. I think there is only a certain amount of bard chests that you can find with a certain amount of that skills serum, so be wise with what you want to choose. Because from what I can see, there isn't a way to unchoose the skills that you have chosen. The storytelling of the game, I would say, is about 40% reading notes, 40% speaking to NPCs, and 20% just kind of figure it out on your own. But honestly, it seemed kind of rushed, and it didn't feel fully fleshed out. There were 4 endings that said you should destroy Oberon, there was one that told you to leave it alone, and the other one said feed the Oberon fire, as it were. But at the end of each one, all I got was an empty feeling because it just ended. I never got to find out who the telephone man is, I never got to see the consequences of my actions, and it just felt bleh. It is worth noting that you can also mix and match the endings. You can speak to Garrow, you can get a sample, but then poison it like Dr. Holder asks you to, but still do the Garrow ending, or the Sims ending, or the Joyce ending. As long as you destroyed Oberon, you can do any of the 4 endings that wanted you to destroy Oberon. So they're all pretty open-ended, and some will of course lock you off, but not all of them. To sum my feelings up on the game, it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I do think it could have been longer, I do think there should have been more local quests with the townsfolk, but I still enjoyed my time playing it, and there wasn't really a time when I felt bored while I was playing it. But for me, it always felt like there was something missing, and I think that's down to me being a local. I definitely think I judged it harder on the lack of authentic Cumbrian accents that I could find. I was also a little sad that the only sheep that I found were the bloated time bombs that you could find scattered around Skidmore, but at least they were Herdwick sheep, which is, if you don't know, the local protected sheep of the area. It would have been grim, but kind of cool to see a pile of cold infected sheep that had been set ablaze, or, even better, if they'd put feral mutated roaming sheep, since they already added the bees and the leeches and the crows. A herd of sheep coming towards you with fungus coming out of their eyes? That would have been cool. For me, the world building and characters, it seemed a little lacking. There was repeated faces on NPCs, the fact that you can't even talk to anybody in town, and the only option was to take them out, just seemed lazy. Despite there being quite a few residents wandering in the streets, you could only go into a few selected buildings. I feel like they really could have put more life into the only village in the game, even if it was a few lines of dialogues that you could interact with the NPCs, or some more Cumbrian sayings like Asgan Yamara would have made the game 1,000 times more Cumbrian and made the village feel more lifelike and more realistic to where it's set. But instead we got lifeless, boring NPCs that just walk up and down the street. I kind of feel conflicted with this game because as a local I really wanted to enjoy it, and I did enjoy the gameplay, and I do have a lot of naysays about it, but as much as I picked apart the NPCs being lifeless, I did still enjoy the game. I enjoyed it from beginning to end, even though the ending was a bit more disappointing. The run through of the game was a lot of fun, and I did enjoy the mechanics of it. So I would probably give it like a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's going to be one of my most loved games ever. It was kind of mid for me, but again, I think I judged it very harshly because I am a local. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the game. If you have played it, if you haven't played it, if you're not going to play it, or if you bought the Deluxe pack and maybe you're looking forward to the DLC. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, let me know. Also, if you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so. It helps the channel out. And I'm also usually live over on Twitch on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 12 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. I also have a TikTok. I post VODs. I do content pretty much every single day. So if that's the kind of thing you're into, then consider leaving a follow somewhere. And I will see you soon. Okay? Bye! I feel like they... Oh, is my throat going? I got that...